The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views and positions of the agency.
Welcome to DYCD Next Gen. Once again, I'm your host, Ryan Cooks. Our monthly podcast features the very latest in everything DYCD has to offer, and we go right to the heart of the story, speaking to young people and New Yorkers about the issue they face in their daily lives. Today, we are joined by Emmy Award-winning news anchor for NY1, author, TV talk show host, Cheryl Wills. She is here to speak to us about Women's History Month, her career in journalism and writing, and the importance of storytelling. Cheryl, welcome to the show.
Ryan, thank you for that wonderful introduction. It's an honor to be here with you.
Really happy to be here with you as well. And let's just get right into it. So
Yeah.
Women's History Month is celebrating trailblazers. Clearly you're a big trailblazer yourself, with all your achievements and accomplishments. So as an Emmy Award-winning journalist in New York City and longtime NY1 anchor, you built a powerful career in media. So how did that get started? Could you go into how it got started, how it began? Just give us a rundown.
Absolutely, Ryan. So it got started when I was a student at Syracuse University. I always had a vision, Ryan, of what I wanted to be, even when I was in elementary school. I saw that I would be an author, I saw that I would be a journalist. And I'm very glad that I never gave up on it. And if there's one message I can share with your viewers, it's that you should never let go of those childhood dreams, because I saw it clearly when I was a kid and I held on to it for dear life. I held on to it tighter than my wallet.
You had a vision, you followed through.
Right, that's right. I had
Right.
a vision and I followed through. So I went to Syracuse University, majored in broadcast journalism, and I'm a native New Yorker, right? I grew up in Queens, grew up in NYCHA, and it was challenging to keep that dream alive. But once you have an education, once you have a college education, Ryan, you have now a path to make those dreams come true. So I just started working as a production assistant at Fox 5 here in New York City. And 3 years into that, this new cable local station called NY1 started. And one of my producers took me with him to this new entity. And I have been there ever since, Ryan. It's been almost 35 years. Can you imagine?
Wow, 35.
People don't keep jobs long like that anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm like the last of the Mohicans in that respect, but I'm very glad to have worked in one place for 35 years, because we started out with typewriters. We started out without cell phones, without all of the things, without computers, really. I mean, computers were just getting hot when I started my career. So it's been wonderful to see the transition from, to digital media. And I'm glad I'm still hanging in there, Ryan.
Was that hard to adapt to the
Yeah,
transition
yeah,
in
no, it
technology?
really was. It really was. But it's like riding a wave, right? So when cell phones came, we had to get rid of our beepers and everything new coming at us. It was like, okay, now we're doing this. Okay, now our scripts are generated on this computer. Okay, now we communicate differently. And here comes social media. It was like, whoa, now what is this? So, and what's interesting, Ryan, is that it dramatically changed my career. Like all of the things you take for granted, you've grown up with a cell phone, right? You've
Of
grown up
course.
with all of this, but I grew into it. Like it emerged on my watch. I mean, when I was born, it was black and white television still. So, I have seen like all of these technological advances and I've had to ride the wave, but I'm very grateful for it. It's made, in some respects, our lives easier. In other ways, it's done a lot of damage. So, it's cuts both
Take
ways,
the good with the bad,
just like everything else.
hmm So when we talk more about like Women's History Month, like who are the women, it could be in the past or like the present now, who most influenced you, your path in journalism and in authorship?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ryan. Later today, I am being honored by the Newswomen's Club of New York, and they are giving me their prestigious Ida B. Wells Award. And I am really honored to receive the an award in the name of one of my sheroes. Do you know who Ida B. Wells was?
I know
You've
who she is.
heard of her.
Mhm.
Ida B. Wells was a journalist and activist, a Black woman who, when Black people were being lynched in the South, she sounded the alarm and she took a lot of criticism. People were like, "Who do you think you are?" And she knew exactly who she was, and in her personal power to see this injustice happening all over the South. And she wrote prolifically about the deaths of people by lynch mobs, one of the many things she did, and she drew attention to it when many journalists were afraid to talk about it. Sound familiar? So, to receive an award in honor of one of my sheroes means everything. So, she's one of my role models. Other role models include people who are not so famous, but I am the great, great, great granddaughter of enslaved people from Tennessee and South Carolina. And I wrote a book, Ryan, about my great 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 grandmother, Emma Wills. And she is my ultimate shero because she transitioned from slavery to freedom when she was about 15. And she grew up to be an empowered woman. And when she was enslaved, they wouldn't allow any slaves to be educated. So when I found her information in the National Archives, I was amazed to see that she was empowered anyway. She sued the federal government when they would not give her a pension to pay for her children who were descendants of a Civil War veteran. She saw that white women were getting it and she said, "Oh no, you're going to treat me with respect that my husband earned for his service during the Civil War." She hired a lawyer, and when they did depositions, they wrote everything out and she signed her name with an X. And when I give talks at schools all across this country, Ryan, I point to her X. And that X makes me want to be excellent, extraordinary, and exceptional. So she's my number one shero. And when you look at me, you see Emma because her DNA is still running fresh through my veins. And it's an honor this Women's History Month to draw attention to all of the women who fought for freedom, for the women's struggle. Shirley Chisholm is also what from Brooklyn. Where are you from, Ryan?
I'm from Brooklyn.
Ah, look
Born
at
and
that.
raised,
I had a feeling you were from Brooklyn,
born
USA.
and raised.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And you know, Shirley Chisholm was Brooklyn all day long. There's a rec
Yep.
center named after her in your borough, and she's also one of my sheroes. So there are so many women that I look up to that give me the fire to keep pushing through.
That's amazing, Cheryl. And congrats on your award.
Thank you,
It's must be
Ryan.
really exciting for you and everybody, to come so far to where you're at right now. It's truly powerful. And
Thank
it's
you.
incredible.
And I want to reiterate, Ryan, I grew up in NYCHA in Queens, and when you grow up in public housing, people tend to look at just the whole landscape as dead. Like no one's expecting anything from any of you. And some people take that to heart and they self destruct because they feel no support or love from the world. And that's one of the reasons why I go back to schools, especially that are fed from NYCHA developments. And I let young children know it's not where you start in this world, it's how you finish. And don't let anyone define you. Don't let anyone put tags on you and say, well, because you lived in this neighborhood or that neighborhood. I am a shining example of what happens when you're raised in public housing and you still keep your personal dream alive.
To all the young people watching, listen to Cheryl. It's some real stuff she's spitting right now. Thank you for that, Cheryl.
Sure.
Um, but to continue on that, I mean, you said you grew up in NYCHA and
Yeah.
everything. So like, and you of course, as a black woman in media, like what barriers did you have to overcome as a woman in broadcast news? I know it probably mustn't having it wasn't easy.
Yeah, nothing that's worth having is going to be easy. In fact, if it is easy, it's probably not good. So, you have to work hard to be successful, and you do have to overcome a lot of barriers no matter who you are. And navigating a world and a business that is historically biased within the newsroom was a big challenge. And I mean, every newsroom. This has been a struggle for so many people of color. And I always salute the women journalists who, like Barbara Walters, who was really the first woman anchor to really knock down God rest her soul, knock down all the barriers for women and, so many others. But it's never easy for women because this is a male dominate or was a male dominated industry. But women have made tremendous advances in broadcast journalism. And I'm proud to have seen that. When I was a little girl watching the news, Ryan, the anchors were all white males. Okay. I could tell you their names. On Channel 7, it was Roger Grimsby, Bill Butel. I mean, no black people were to be found. And I saw as I grew older, these pioneers in broadcast journalism start to open doors. And one of my personal mentors was a man named Bill McCreary. He was the first black anchor on Channel 5. And I told you my first job was at Channel 5. And when I met him, I was like, oh my gosh, to see a real trailblazer who was the first to walk in the door at Fox 5 was a big deal. So a lot of people opened the door for me. And the way I live my life now is I open the door, Ryan, for others.
You're women of color. Many women of color carry family histories that go untold. So I want to get into about your book, Die Free, I believe
Yeah.
it's called.
Yes.
It tells a riveting story of preserving a family legacy of resilience and courage. So how do you see storytelling as a tool for empowerment, particularly for women of color?
Absolutely. So we're just coming off Black History Month, and I the highlight of my life is visiting schools, doing assemblies, and teaching children about slavery and the Civil War through the lens of my family. As I told you, Ryan, I am the great, great, great granddaughter of a Civil War veteran. His name was Sandy Wills. And you mentioned storytelling. I polish my storytelling skills every time I go into these assemblies because I show his enlistment record. I show that he was owned by Edmund Wills. I show what it's like to be illiterate and receive an honorable discharge certificate from the Army that you can't read. And I also show what it's like to transition from being enslaved to being free and to starting a new generation of freedom, which is what Sandy and Emma did. And most importantly, my story climaxes when I ask the question, where was Sandy Wills buried? When I was doing all the research, I was stunned, Ryan, to learn that he was missing in action in death. I opened the file at the National Archives. I searched and searched. We know when he was born, 1840, and we know when he died, but there was no record of his burial, especially inside a military cemetery. That upset me to no end. It hit me so deeply. And it's like, this is when, you can read about racism, Ryan, but then there's a time when racism comes and punches you right in your face and say, you too. Yeah, your great, great, great grandfather, we threw him away. That there are no words to describe what that felt. So incredibly, very quickly, I had the opportunity, Ryan, to find the plantation where he lived. Do you know it was exactly how he and his wife left it? And the same family still owned it. And they froze it in time. They
Wow.
still sell cotton. They saved the slave cabin. And guess what else? What else they saved? The African burial ground. They took me right to it. I couldn't believe it. I had been talking about Sandy Wills for years, going to assemblies, doing assemblies all over the country. And now I'm standing on this sacred ground where he might be buried. I asked the family, do you have records of who's buried here? They were like, sorry, we don't know where the records are. It's been so long. Sandy died in 1889. You know what I did, Ryan? I hired an archaeology team and I show students your age, young people your age, what it's like for shovels and a backhoe to go 6 feet under in search of an American hero. I would not rest until we found Sandy Wills. And this was a huge risk, my friend. Let me tell you why. You die in 1889, there's a chance there's nothing left of you. So this was a huge risk. I risked my money, everything. They went down, they opened all the graves, and only one could have fit him because on his military enlistment record, they listed him as standing 5 feet 9 inches tall. So, what the archaeologists did, they were only looking for a grave that could fit him, and only one could. And when they got down to the bottom, there he was, his skeletal remains, and most importantly, a full set of his teeth. And if you know anything about archaeology, when they find your teeth, they could tell your whole story. They could tell what you ate when you were alive. They could tell how old you were when you died. They could tell everything. And they put the whole thing together and said, congratulations, we found your Civil War grandfather. And then I called the Army, Ryan, and I was like, yo, check
Bring them
this
up, like.
out. My archaeology team just found my grandfather. You guys didn't give him, the Army didn't give him a proper burial in 1889. He deserves it now. And of course, there was, okay, well, we got to do our own investigation, blah, blah, blah. It took them months to get back to me, but they did their investigation. They made sure I was actually related to him. They made sure his service was actually documented. They had to verify everything. And when they did in 2024, August 9th, they said we'd be happy to rebury him. And so we went back, exhumed his remains, teeth and all, and we reburied Sandy Wills, my great 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 grandfather who escaped slavery to fight for his freedom and yours and mine. And now he's no longer in an unmarked grave, Ryan. He is in a military cemetery in Memphis, Tennessee, never to be lost again. When I'm dead and gone, one of his descendants could go online, which I couldn't do, put in Sandy Wills, and he's going to come right up, his whole story. So that's what I am so proud of in terms of storytelling, to answer your question. I am so proud to reconnect the dots. And I encourage every young person, with everything that you're learning, make sure you learn about you. Make sure you learn about your people. Make sure, because that's your superpower. You understand what I'm saying, Ryan? That's your superpower. That's what's going to make you live and be able to fight all of the negativity in this world. When you realize what your family survived and you're a descendant of them, boom, you can accomplish anything in the 21st century.
That's powerful. The more when you say it like that, it's like, wow, like I'm really from a descendants of people that went through a lot, and to be here today just shows.
Yes, Ryan, and it's in your DNA. There's nothing you or any young person that's watching us right now, there's nothing you can't do because you're descendants of survivors.
This is like one of like most moving things I've ever heard. And like I'm just glad he was able to for him to get a proper burial and everything. I'm just glad it had a happy ending. And you must be really proud about that,
There are no
for
words.
your family.
Yeah, there are no words. And I'll share some of the images for you guys to put on this if you want. There are no words that can describe the the satisfaction to bring life and put respect on my grandfather Sandy Wills's name.
You also just gave me a story that's very, vulnerable, to share this part of your history with me. So women journalists often balance visibility with vulnerability. How have you navigated telling such a personal and emotional family story in a public way?
Yes. And it's very public. And I got news for you. It's been overwhelmingly positive. There are a few people that are not happy. There are a few people that don't want any talk about slavery. There are some people, and we're dealing with an environment now where the federal government is literally saying just that. We're going to rewrite the narrative of slavery. We don't want all this explicit stuff about how bad it was, which is the most offensive thing I've ever heard in my life. You're going to try to rewrite history? I don't know what to say other than not on my watch. Not on my watch. That's something I will stand on a hill for that one, and I won't leave. History cannot be touched. I don't care whose history it is. I don't care whose history it is. Leave history alone. It happened. Instead of trying to change it, how about we learn from it?
Yeah,
How about
I
we
like that.
make sure the Holocaust never happens again and teach children all the horrors of the 6 million lives that were extinguished? How about we make sure women who were not allowed the right to vote? How about we make sure all people are never disenfranchised from their right to vote again? How about we do that? How about we make sure Black people who survived slavery and Jim Crow, how about we make sure we never allow these evils to rise up again rather than changing the history and trying to make it palatable for those who feel uncomfortable? If history makes you uncomfortable, then do something about today. That's how I see it. Do something about today, because guess what? Racism is exploding all over this country today. Bias against women happening today. Anti-Semitism happening today. So how about they take that energy rather than trying to change history and changing the hate that's fermenting in this country right now?
I feel like there's a need, like sometimes we tend to go backwards, but we should be moving
Right.
forwards and learning, from our past for sure.
Well said. Let's stop going backwards. And let's go forward and be positive. History, listen, history is sometimes horrific and ugly. Yeah, we know that. But the answer is not to go in and line edit a history book. I think that's why I didn't know even about blacks in the Civil War. Ryan, you know what taught me about black involvement during the Civil War? A movie called Glory. That movie
Heard
came
of him.
out, and I don't know if you've seen it, but I encourage you. Denzel Washington, Morgan Freeman. It's a brilliant movie. And so many people went, gee, didn't know there were black soldiers in the Civil War. And then when I found out about Sandy Wills, I was like, you mean to tell me one of my grandfathers was there? I mean, this is what happens when erasure takes hold. Somebody just takes an eraser and just erases, the so-called undesirables. We can't let that happen. And that's why I'm happy to join you on this podcast, and you and all the young people listening. This is being turned over to you. This whole world is being turned over to you, Ryan, and all of your friends. You're the future lawmakers. You're the future educators. The future is being turned over to you. And we are counting on all of you to be leaders, to be fair, to be equitable, to be kind, and to make sure anti Semitism, Islamophobia, racism, all of the ugly isms, we hope you guys will handle that. because everyone deserves to live in peace, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Not just some people who are well connected with money, all people.
Talking about that, like how much the world has changed and everything. Like with the world of media, journalism, and how people get their news, obviously there's been a drastic change from the rise of social media and whatnot. What advice do you have for young people specifically? Because I feel like it's a problem now, like
Yeah.
trying to navigate the news and deciphering real news versus fake news.
Yeah, I mean, you guys really have a job on your hands because anyone with a phone, and it's happened over and over again, can post something, start getting likes and shares, and it could be entirely false. Social media has killed living people. Where celebrities have to go, I'm not dead. I don't know who did. I mean, it's just like, whoa. So I would recommend, to answer your question, that young people, especially, before you share, verify from legit sources like, say, my company NY1 or the New York Times or Daily News. Any reputable news organization is going to be very careful, and it's actually a skill set we have. We're not just faking it. We source our information. We make sure before we announce someone has died or something has happened, we make sure. It's called attribution. So if we're telling you about a shooting in New York City, we've called the NYPD. You know what I mean? Like, and we have to say as much. So I would recommend. That's a great question you asked. Your young people who are watching, be careful what you read. It's not all true. I see things. People will send me things, and I'll just hit them back on IG and say, yeah, please stop sending me this fake stuff. Not true. And I found out it was false just like that. But they start sharing, and so verify, verify, verify. And it's easy to verify. If you see something on social media that a certain person has died, do a quick search. It's really not that hard. And if the New York Times or the Daily News or any of them, any of the established media organizations, if they're not reporting it, probably not true.
Well said. Well said. Yeah, I just feel like that's such a huge problem. Like
Huge.
just the amount of stuff like that just gets shared. It's so easy for somebody to misunderstand something or to take the wrong idea or something from something that's not true.
And
So,
you're destroying lives. I mean, it's so easy to hit forward. It's so easy to hit a little arrow that says retweet or whatever. That's someone's life. That's someone's life, especially when it comes to scandals or something like that. You can destroy someone's livelihood, and it just picks up steam, and the steam that causes it to spread is never there for the correction. Lives are ruined and nobody cares. So until it happens to them, then you care.
yeah, exactly.
Then you
Exactly.
care that no one's corrected the record. So verify, verify, verify.
In terms of like giving advice, what is your advice to, let's say, a young woman who's exploring careers in media and journalism? What would you say to that young woman?
Yes, I would say number one, start writing now. The foundation of our business is writing. That's number one. Number two, embed yourself with anything, like local community newspaper. If your high school or middle school or even elementary school has a newsletter or yearbook, get involved. Start where you are. There's a wonderful Chinese saying that I believe wholeheartedly: bloom where you are planted. Bloom where you are planted. You may not be, at ABC News, but if your school has a yearbook, you need to be working on that yearbook. You need to be working on your school newspaper and you're learning how to interview people. And then you need to go to a college that has a good specialty in a major in broadcast journalism. That's why I attended Syracuse University. The Newhouse School of Public Communications is one of the best broadcasting schools in the country. And I knew right away I had to be there. And I'm so glad I got accepted and I graduated. And so from there, you just keep building on your dream. And will people come along and say, you need to stop? Probably. Will people come along and say, oh, that's so competitive? What are the odds you're going to end? That's what you have to do to people who are haters. Don't ever, ever, ever let anyone distract from your dream or dial down your dream or make you feel you reached too high. Yeah, the higher you go, it does become a little more stressful, but you'll learn to deal with it. But I feel very strongly, Ryan, about people who dial down their dreams to make other people comfortable. That is a sin in my book. Dream big, go for it. Why? Because you are the descendants of survivors, and they're counting on you to achieve what they never had the chance to do. So that's always my message to young people.
To dream big.
Dream big.
Dream big.
Never surrender.
If you could go back in time and give yourself as a young one piece of advice, what would that be?
If I could go back, that's always my favorite question. If I could go back in time and give myself one piece of advice, what would it be? I would never, as a young person, waste time with relationships. That was, I think, my biggest waste of time. Yes, your hormones are raging. Yes, you think you're in love. Yes, you think you can't live without them. And then when you get older, if I could add up all the time that I spent, if I had a nickel, I'd be a millionaire because it's, focus on your career. That's what I would tell myself. Don't worry about a significant other. Focus on your career and stay laser focused. And don't get caught up in the love game until you're mature enough to do that. So, the puppy love that I had when I was 16 and 17, now that I look back, I'll be 60 in September. Complete waste of time. Complete. Like, I think everyone my age, I think we're like, if we could get that time back, if we could get those tears back, you cry because So that's what I would tell my young self. Put the relationships aside. Stay laser focused on being the best student you can. That's what I would tell myself. Take advantage of every opportunity, because I'll be honest with you, I didn't take advantage of every opportunity. I took advantage of some, but I didn't do as much as I could have, and that's just real, just looking at my young self critically. I didn't do everything I could have done. I didn't take advantage of everything. I did about a quarter of what I could have done. So if I could go back, I would just, boom, no distractions.
Just stay laser focused on.
Stay laser focused. I made it, but
that's why you're here.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah, you're here.
That just talking to my young self, that's something I actually think about.
Any other advice you would like to give us?
Well, I would love to know a little bit about you. Tell me about you. Are an excellent interviewer, I must say. I've been an interviewer, a journalist, a TV host for decades, and you have something special. Like I almost see that one day we're going to look back at this and you're going to be very successful and you're going to be like, I talked to her how old are you?
I'm 25.
Oh, you're 20. Look at you, black don't crack. Okay. I thought you were a kid. But yeah. So tell me about yourself. I would like to know.
Where do I start? Well, I mean, I work in communications for DYCD. I'm a communications liaison. So, a lot of my passion was writing. So I've
Ah,
done, yeah, a lot of my passion was writing. I used to like write stories as a kid. I used to love storytelling, like reading and everything. And I did a few internships, and it led me to this job. And yeah, I've just ever since, I've worked more on the creative side of things when it comes to like social media and communications. Uh, our last commissioner had this idea for a podcast. He wanted me to be the host, and I'm the one that's come up with the scripts, the concepts. I got people helping me, of course. But yeah, it just turned into this, and that's where I'm at right now, just creating and writing, and just figuring out how to just make this platform expand and grow even further. So
that's
that's a little bit on
awesome.
me. I just love writing, storytelling, and just being creative.
I think that's fantastic. And this is a great way to exercise your skill set. And
Of course.
congratulations. I'm glad you have a
Thank you.
very
Thank
cool
you.
job. You're doing what you love, and you're going to grow from here. My advice for you is to keep doing what you're doing and keep tapping into that vision you had when you were a kid. Don't let it go, and keep networking. Networking is key. Networking is key. And I'm going to tell you, it's not what you know in this world, it's who you know.
Who you know. Yep.
All day long, all day long. I know many things that have happened to me. It's because I met somebody in the right place at the right time. So, by all means, keep networking. You should join a local, you love writing, you should join a local organization called the New York Association of Black Journalists. They have mixers, they have events. You could go to national conventions. You can learn how to write on another scale, depending on if you want to go into news or whatever, and just keep networking and keep meeting people. Don't stay in your bubble. I'm not saying you do, but don't stay. We get comfortable.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, you
Of
know what
course.
I'm saying? I'm not saying that's
Of
you,
course.
but sometimes we get comfortable and we're like, okay, I made it. Boom. And don't ever be comfortable. Like, even though I've worked at NY1 for 35 years almost, I branched out of it. Like, I play myself on shows like Law and Order, SVU, I do Hollywood movies, I write books, I visit schools, I'm working on a documentary. Like, I just branch out. Like, NY1 is the base, but I don't just spend every day going and reporting the news and going home.
Right. Right.
From there, and I would encourage you, Ryan, to do the very same thing. Keep branching out, keep meeting people, keep networking. And you'll see that those dreams you had when you were a kid will start to take root. And just double down on what you saw as a kid. Double down. I'm telling you. I think, and I don't know if, maybe this sounds kind of weird, but I think you get a flash when you're a kid of what you're going to be. And the question becomes, will you stay true to it? Or will you say, oh, well, I don't know how that's going to work out, so I'm just going to do this because it's safe. You can't afford to be safe. Too many people have sacrificed for you. Too many people have, frankly, died for you. Don't be safe. Spread your wings and fly, and don't worry about the parachute. Parachute will open. You don't have to worry. But a lot of people get so controlling. They're like, well, I have to work and I have to know exactly how this is going to play out. And I could see this. But sometimes it's the things you can't see that are the most phenomenal and prosperous and out of this world, mind blowing. But you didn't take a step on faith because you needed to have all the answers before you got started. And that's not how the big stuff works. The little stuff, yeah, you know what? You could go work at the post office and they'll lay out your whole life. They'll say, when you do X number of years, nothing against people that work for the post office, but when you do X number of years, you're going to make this, you're going to make this, and boom, and then you retire and boom. And people are like, okay, I can see that, good. But for the ballers. You're not going to get that. You understand what I'm saying, Ryan? You're not going to get everything laid out in a nice, neat, to your pension, and then you retire, and then you take a cruise. That's not how it works for the ballers. The ballers are walking in the dark and walking in faith. So that's what I would recommend to you, Ryan. Walk in faith and just your brightest dream, just go for it. And don't worry about people rejecting you. Don't worry about people telling you you can't do it. Just walk in blind faith. And I'll leave you with this. When I found Sandy Wills, that was the greatest example of blind faith in my life. I stood on that grave and there was nothing but leaves and trees. And the archaeologist said to me, "Are you sure? Because this is going to cost a lot of money. And you got to go before a judge and you got to do all this, And I was like, let's go. Let's go. Blind faith. So the most successful people walk almost feeling, just knowing that you have support that you can't see.
Never quit.
Never quit, my friend.
Never quit. Thank you so much for that, Cheryl. Anything else you'd like to address, or?
We're good. I think we got it all covered. You did such a good job, Ryan.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And that concludes today's discussion. For more information on DYCD, check out nyc.gov/DYCD, or be sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, X, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Join us again next month for another episode of DYCD Next Gen. Once again, I'm your host, Ryan Cooks. Thank you for listening, and thank you, Cheryl, for being on this podcast. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.